Hi folks, today we're going to do 4 types of snowy mountains with some variations of each. We're going to use 2 pens. I've got these Pigma Micron 01 and 03. These are fancy black ones. Well, fancy, they're probably no different, but they're the 01 and 03. They're the same as the standard ones. I just got this weird limited edition set. Any 2 pens will do. You could definitely do it with 1 pen as well, so don't worry about that. Just use whatever you've got. We are going to use some watercolours. And I got this little set from Derwent. It's called Graphitint, but any watercolour set where you can get a light blue colour is absolutely fine. So you could mix some colours to make light blue. This one comes with this wet brush, which is literally all I've got. I've never really used watercolour before. This is like a new experiment for me. I'm going to be using this colour here, which is ocean blue. And I'm going to mix it in these little bits with a bit of squirt of water. That is this one, yeah, if I get it right. So what we'll do is we'll just get a little bit of water on the brush by squeezing it, put it there, a little bit more, and then squirt that out, right? And we're going to lighten that up a lot. There we go. That's all we're going to need, just a tiny bit of watercolour. You could use any paints for this, probably. I don't know, to be honest. I'm not much of a painter. But you can get the cheapest, probably, thing. To do the technique with the colours, you'll need watercolour paper, because otherwise the paint's going to run all over the place and you're going to have a nightmare. But otherwise, we're going to do some just pen-only techniques as well. Right, so let's get started. The first technique we're going to do is, we'll do it up here, and I'll try and do it so you can definitely see it. We'll call it 1. And we're going to do a kind of simple mountain line like that, right? And then, as always, we're just going to make sure that we add a little bit off the edges, right? And that's literally it for the pen. Now we're going to take our watercolor brush, a little bit of stuff. You could definitely use a normal brush, by the way. Just have a little pot of paper, just dab it on the bit of kitchen paper up here, or I'll dab it where you can see it. There you go. So I get a bit of the paint, dab it up there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw like a jagged line like that. This might not even show up. I might need a little bit more of the pigment. So, and I'll just dab it off. Jagged line, and we'll do it. See to there, and then this would draw another jagged line there, right? And then same on this little peak, like that. There we go. And the same there, like that. And then on this one, same there, like that. There we go, right? What we can do is wait for that to dry a little bit and then add a little bit more pigment to it, just to darken the bottom areas down here. You could try it while it's wet, see how it goes. But I don't think, yeah, I mean, if you want watercolor techniques, you should look at someone like Karen Hoyer or someone like that who does like amazing watercolor maps. Anyway, we're going to carry on to the next version of this, right? And we're going to draw a slightly more jagged line. So just like that. There we go, nice and jagged. And then this time with our pen again, we're going to just continue these lines down a bit, right? So we're just adding a little bit of definition. Okay, so you see like that, just a few little lines down. And then much the same as before with the watercolor. What we're looking for, the reason we're using blue is just to kind of give it that snow shadow. So from here, I'm going to come straight down from this peak, right, like that. And then I'm just going to jagged it at the bottom. And I'll do the same down to this little line, like that, fill that in. And then make it nice and jagged again. So basically it's the same technique. And we'll just add a little bit on that one. See, that one sits behind that line that we drew down. So that's why I haven't done it all the way down to the bottom. And then this one, there we go. Nice and easy. And there we are. That's technique number 2 within this part of 1. And then the third way we can do this is, again, we're going to draw slightly wavier mountains this time. There you go, one mountain, nice and wavy. Again, we're going to draw the lines on. Right, we'll do it this way so the main part's sticking out, but you could do it either way around. So now we've got our sort of main peak in the middle and these behind it, but you know, whatever you end up doing, it's all good. And then using the technique again, dab our brush off, we're going to start this about halfway down that mountain. So we're going to come down here and then we're going to come across it a bit more, like that. do the same there and the same there, right? And on this one. So what we're leaving is like a snowy top and then a snowy bit on the left-hand side. For all these techniques, we're going to shade on the right. You can shade on the left if you want, it won't make any difference. Obviously don't shade on both sides because that would be ridiculous. So there you go. Those three, really simple variation, quick watercolor brush, nice and easy. So let's make it a little bit more complicated with technique 2. So we'll start with a really jagged kind of peak now, right? So lots of lines like that. And again, we're always going to trail off those lines, right? That's something I do in almost everything. We're going to do it in here. So get lots of nice little bits of broken thing. And then on the peaks, we're going to draw little ridge lines, but really, in fact, I'm just going to stop using 03 and I'm going to move to 01, right? But you could definitely only do it with one pen and do a lot like less pressure. So we're going to just do a little broken ridge line like that. That one there. Like that there. Like that. Like that. See, I'm really barely touching the paper and I'm leaving gaps, right? And that's pretty much it for the pen. In fact, that is it for the pen. Now we're going to take our watercolor again, get a bit more on the brush, dab it off there, and I might want to wait just a moment for that ink to dry, but the microns are pretty good for this. And now we're just going to paint in on the right hand side of those ridge lines that we did. I kind of like this technique. It's just really easy. We know where we've got paint. Oh, I didn't draw a ridgeline there, but we'll use a bit of that technique. Just put a bit of paint in there. Just fill it up a little bit more. And there we go. Nice and simple. And what we can do is we can add a little bit of extra shadow if we want. And again, we could come back to this when it's dried slightly and just darken like next to the ridgeline. We'll see now, if we go back to 1, if it's dark enough to do that, or dry enough to do that, pardon. No, not quite. So it's still, the paint's still sort of spreading around. So we'll wait, we could wait till that's totally dry and add a little bit more, which maybe we'll do later. So the next version of this technique, which is kind of like this technique really, but we're going to do a really wavy version of the mountains. So nice, soft peaks, like you're making a meringue. And again, do our little extending lines, extend them out like that. There we go, we've got 3 really soft things there. And I'm going to just add a little bit there just for the sake of that. Okay. Again, we're going to paint it on, and we're going to paint it from here. And this is basically this technique, but with wavy lines. So I don't really know why I've put it on this one. It's kind of the order I tried to invent them. And again, we're just going to come across from the right hand side and come around as if we were shading with a pen. So if you've watched any of my other mountain techniques, this is basically where I would shade with some lines with a pen. And there we go. And we can just add a few little bits of extra blue just to kind of give it that paint effect. But there you go, really easy. I mean, it's basically that. They're the same, right? Except that's a bit more jagged. Okay, so now we can ditch the watercolor. That's all done. That's as good at painting as I can be, right? I've never used watercolor before. Okay, so I'll leave that there. That's 01. We're gonna go back to 03. And now, for our third technique, we're gonna use pen shading, right? So let's make a nice medium sort of jagged mountain. There we go, there's our start. And we'll just trail it out as always because it makes it look so much nicer. And we're going to draw a few little lines coming in from the ridges. Not ridges, like, you know, to sort of give the mountains a bit of depth basically. There we go. So that's nice. And then for this technique, what we'll do is we're going to draw a kind of line around here to make the whole top kind of snowy. So I'm going to do it like that. and we're going to use really light pressure. In fact, no, I'll carry on with the one pen, just to show you that you can do it with one. Like that, bit there, bit like that, and a bit like that. Right, and then under that line we've just drawn, we're going to do a bit of the shading. Oh, let's put a bit more there. Really, really light pressure. Like that. And we're going to focus our shading mainly on the right hand side again, because we're sort of shading on the right. So here's a little bit here. And like that. And we'll just add a bit there. So there you go. Right. And then to just make it look a little bit more like snow on this peak here, we're just going to add really tiny little dots, not even lines, right? So just some dots, just to kind of give it something more than nothing. There we go. Right, and then the next variation of that is just slightly more jagged, really. So let's do it again. There we go, we've got a nice big mountain. Trail that off a bit. And come about halfway down. And what we want to do is we're going to sort of draw all the way around this peak, but I don't want to connect the line. I want to have it, I'm trying to do it so you can see. See, it's broken there, right? There's a gap. I want that gap. And I can do a little bit of a line down like that. I'll do it from behind there. Really light pressure to make a really nice thin line. And then, then we'll do our lines down again. So we're only going to do them underneath where we've drawn our little horizontals. Again, I missed a bit there, but that's fine. I think with snowy mountains, kind of less is more, if you know what I mean. We need to see a lot of white, right? So in this one, see, I've got this little indent here. I'm just going to do a tiny bit of shading like that. There we go. Almost just little dots, just to give it a tiny bit of definition. There we go. So I mean, I say they're different, but they're like pretty much exactly the same. If we wanted to add a little bit to these, we could do a little bit more kind of coming down here, maybe add a little line that way. There we go. You get the idea. Okay, on to the final one. This is the same sort of thing, but a little bit more sort of, I guess, a little bit more detailed. So we'll start with kind of very jagged now. We're going to get really sort of detailed in the jaggedness. There we go. Looks like the rise and fall of my bank account throughout the month. Adding our little lines of definition, because I think they really make our mountains pop. If we just have a really boring line, like for example that first one, there's really nothing there, right? I mean, it looks quite nice with the blue, but I think that version of it looks so much better where we've got a bit more definition in the mountains. So we've got these. What we're going to do next is we'll add really light ridge lines again, just at the sort of summits here. So we're putting in really light pressure, and then from those we're going to draw our lines down following the contour of the mountain. So you'd have seen this style before. I'll really try and keep my hand out of the way if I can. But we're going so light that I want it to really barely be thing. So it's more like how you might shade with a pencil. And you see this bit here where this comes down here, we've got this little ridge line and this line. I just extend that down a bit, which gives it quite a nice effect. Okay, and we'll just tuck a few bits extra in where we need to make sure we've broken those lines about. And there we go. I think that's not quite as snowy. Like that, to me, is more obviously snowy. This could be anything. But because we're using one pen and it's only one colour, it's very hard. It's hard for me because I'm crap at drawing. It's very hard to like make a real shading, like a gradation of the shading. I guess you could do different thicknesses of lines or keep them closer together. But for me, that's difficult. Probably it is for you if you're watching videos about how to draw mountains as well. So now we're going to make this one even bigger, right? So nice and jagged, but we're going to try and have less variety, right? So we'll keep the lines a bit more. When I say jagged, I mean we're going to have fewer curves and more kind of, the edges are going to be angles rather than curves, right? That makes sense, hopefully. Right, for this one I am going to switch to a thinner pen, but again, you could do it without. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a ridge line, right? But we're going to focus it on the right-hand side of this mountain, okay? So our ridge line is going to come sort of this way. And again, we're going to use really light pressure. And this, we're going to keep it nice and broken and nice and sort of jagged. There we go, right to there, okay? And then, in fact, let's add a little bit behind as well, right? There we go, one behind, just to add something to it. And again, we'll stay on the right-hand side, like that. There we go. And then this, bring this in, make sure all of these, so here, we've got a line here, right? And I'm going to make this another ridge. What I actually wanted to do was add, anyway, doesn't matter. I'm going to add this down like that, and then from that bit, there we go, there. So we've got a little bit, that's going to be shadow. And then on this side, this is going to come down here, and that's going to come down there. And then from that peak to that point, I'm going to draw a little line. And the same there, right? This one also. And on the right hand side, these bits that I've just drawn in are going to stay white. In fact, here's a great bit to do it as well. Right, and we'll do that from there. So they'll stay white. And then we've got this ridge line with which we're going to shade. I'm going to move these watercolours out of the way because I need to put my arm to the right. So we're going to come and very light pressure again, following the line of the mountain, right? And when we come in, we can just send it that way. When we come into the left, see, I'll just extend it down a bit. Make sure we're here as well. And from there, and make sure your lines aren't just really thick, right? Use really light pressure, just and follow the contour, of course. Okay, so that's a nice start. Right, we need to do this one. Oh, we'll do this one as well. There we go, put a bit in there, a bit in here. And then that, I'm going to extend down a bit as well. And extending these down kind of gives it this nice broken effect. And what we'll do is we'll just add a few extra lines, down like that. Down this ridge, and then this ridge connects to this, right? So from here, it would go up. See? And then from here down. And what we've got is a slab that way and a slab that way, a nice big slab of snow. We'll add a couple of little cheeky ridge lines here. And what we can do is just add a little bit more detail, but not much, like a tiny, tiny little bit. Just to, you know, kind of, I like to give them all a bit of detail really. Okay, and then that extends out that way. And there we go. And this would complement very well, probably with some kind of fir trees. So we could draw a few. I'll take a thicker pen and do that. Again, doesn't matter. If you want to know how to draw these trees, you can watch my tree drawing video, which will be linked somewhere up in some sort of corner, probably up here, I guess. Okay, and there we go. 4 techniques for snowy mountains. I'll ask always, which is your favourite? Mine is probably that one, but let me know. All right, thanks for watching. Cheers.